or nerves, bind mycobiont in phycobiont, reducing organic carbon sugars to feed both. It was the era we are still in. A wall was being erected, not that the past was a small box. What's the name of the color thinker who poked his eye? A figure looking at a figure looking at an abyss. Or what purpose could be served by the long subway ride inside the island schist? To read Timaeus, promising a vast array of good effects. Or to tear up at the fate of the grasses. To contemplate the regally sorrowful face of the elderly lady, her velour tracksuit the color of dry fields, reflecting glints like low setting sun, the orange seat empty beside her. Withdrawn mist, too much free time level member. Dearest lichenologists and luffers of lichen, my all-time favorite weird planty thing that grows on statues in cemeteries and rocks and trees and stuff. Look, here's some yellow lichen. Nice, eh? Available in a variety of colors at your nearest lichen supermarket. How does baby lichen get made? It just kind of sits there existing at something like 0.000000006 miles per hour. I would not employ lichen to deliver my pizzas or emergency supplies. So with lichen staying where it's at, how does it do the deed? Hang him, leader of the lichen mob. Groan. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Perhaps we should liken you, Well, to start with, lichens are not a single organism, as any dumbarse knows. They are symbiotic or possibly parasitic relationships between fungi and algae, a specific fungus and a specific algae for each, except where there are two algae involved in a ménage à trois with a fungus. So the reproductive organisms should be simple, right? Au contraire, mon ami. I am way too lazy to explain the technicalities, but to make it simple, they either vegetatively reproduce, grow a new form from a piece broken off the parent, or the fungus which hosts the algae produces spores containing both fungi and algae for the particular type reproducing. There is even a form of reproduction similar to sexual reproduction. Mycologists are rather fascinated with reproduction for some reason. Withdrawn mist, too much free time level member. Just over a month late, but wanted to thank Mr. I Survived the Last Asteroid Impact for this great answer. As at a near perfect level of mutualism, leaks into the extracellular spaces as if the dead explained, it's lonely there on that side of the meta, drawing more closely around themselves their quotation marks, which leaves unsaid the wall, the solid collaborator. Yes, but leaves unsaid as well the thread, and its easily folded or tangled properties, the leaves, the spokes of tiny weaves. And her face in that fluorescent stridency looked polished, closed. Why should she wish me to blend into her feeling? So this poem I wrote, this is a brand new poem, and I wrote it, it started out as a poem actually dedicated to Brenda, written right after reading Seasonal Works with Letters on Fire, and then it morphed into something else, other things, but I think it still has that, DNA in it. So this has some of the typographical business that Casey was talking about. Sometimes it helps to, the typographic stuff comes from thinking about a lot of things, but one of the things it comes from thinking about is the difference between hearing something and reading something. So it is possible, one of its layers is to look at the doodads on the page and think about what that sound would be and be in silent lexical space with that. And one of its other layers is to make a way on the page for sounds that we can make with no problem, that we don't actually need notation for. So it doesn't really matter that you can't see what it looks on the page, is what I'm trying to say. This poem is called Price Tag. If I think at all of Jesus, it is as another among the transparent princes of the syllables, sunspot trans in her manna of non-abstract hardening honey, daughter of God, Anisoptera dragonfly flits on the bright tips of lake water, drowsy with runoff, teaches the minnows, here units of nerve is the suck hole. Aporetic in mucky lake bottom, here maple, always the first to turn. I will help you be Jesus, the princess of particles. Be the mica chip eye of a toy fawn reclining with thin felt glued onto the bottom of primary lac, constitutive division. Ask you to flare up and turn speechless red, be a blot of normal cyclic dying. The fawn is molded, painted china, delicate, long, tawny forelegs stretched out, fused, and felt that slides it, para-Bambi, temporary puncture in the underwater sand, that breathes from deeper sand, thick underspace pierced into by a gust of settling chemical, genderless child, implying a nuzzling mother that I wanted very much once. Felt that slides it is the buffer. Green, adhesive, thin. Layer separating, muffling with a purpose to protect. Bought with my own money at the stationery store, no longer there. Bell on the door, smell of vanilla, pouch tobacco, candy, magazine ink. Lovely to look at, nicer to hold, but if you break it, this item is sold. Look, the accretion of sensory detail is a currency, scenario, a proof. Adequation project in which everything is innocent is loss, including drifting gas or perfume, bubble, leached chlorophyll of nervous, bodiless idea wing, Jesus-esque in its tiny muscle. More transparent than the dough, made not of bright cells and omnibenevolence, but quivering and fleshed in the fringe of woods. She lifts her velvety muzzle, pricks her ears, and flicks her tail, and leaps away. Some dapple swallows her. The honey, minnow, flitting, holding, broken piece of daylight, and the price tag is the sliding that is felt. So then I thought, because of Evelyn's biblical lesson, that I would read a poem from this book, Anarch, that I hardly ever read I guess because it seems too strange in a way, but it's less strange if we've been in the Book of Revelation. This word anarch comes partly from Gordon Meta Clark, who Casey mentioned is an artist that I've done a lot of work on, and it comes partly from Paradise Lost. And there's a scene in Paradise Lost where Satan is on this mission to escape from hell and go back to Earth and seduce Adam and Eve so that they can take the apple for security. And he runs into some guardians along the way, Night and Chaos, who he sort of asks the way of. It's kind of the anti-hero and the anti-epic quest. So this is, I've always wanted to make, although I could not possibly, but I've wanted to make some sort of really lush animated movie of Paradise Lost. So this is basically a script for a scene in that animated film. And it's called Animation Fragment. Grayscale, off the coast of chaos. In anime, in a graphic novel, hawk wings skimming waves of lapping nothing. Haggard breastplate, cross-hatched adversary acts on the dark side, on reconnaissance. POV on Vatic first-person shooter. Fizz or globule, loops, absence. Vitreous humor and crystal meniscus cusp the unfinished Logiverse. Musculature of sex, in disillusionment, in shadow, sibilance, grunts, vacuum on the soundtrack, stretch hours, pages flutter, graphite boredom scrolling, lush chiaroscuro tool. Voila, finally, minuscule speck rears La Tour abolie, telescopic Brasilia looming, tumbling satellite, brownfields, test site of the ice-clean Mother Night, villain lair of chaos in the bowel of the mountain. Shall I be free? Unleash? Door clangs on the mine shaft in non-entity. Palace of disorder parents brood a recognition scene. Whose lynxes glow Chernobyl, whose cowls drape antimatter, whose scripts leak active smoke, palsy and homing, palpable, far-sighted, we who sustain the groundless say, go ahead. I guess this one fits as a last one. The dog might bark in the middle. This one's called Tiny Microphone, and it also has some sound stuff in it. Then I said to my soul, and my soul said, I canopy language. And a farther over rubber soul translated simultaneously like a Dadaist at the UN. Species rage, languor rage, as baby rage at the gone total milk bauble. Exactly, not a free force on the high place. What is exact, craved my third soul, testify. Inside assemblage, Before concatenate, like milk in a mirror, because the mossy rock cleaves o'er minutely. That's a good one. And spores accept. My thought averred, its organism traveled. Scant wander, intercalculate the woods. And term mitosis, crystal cleavage, rate of expansion, rhizomatic gist, what the cells do. You guys sure do excel, evinced my half-formulated coexist. And tenderly, the plethora occurred more. I felt their shapes, leaf rot, sticky foot, breeze, igneous, miles. We suck at it, I said. Their trembling equivalents, susurrus, crack. Well, consciousness. A problem arose with exquisite beauty. Punctum, blue laser. I could hear the freeway gathered. In the tiny microphone.